Deleted Station, June 12, 1978. Now, there are gradations, of course, to creativity. Certain important kinds of creativity demand incubation periods, during which the conscious mind cannot follow the inner processes. It goes its own way, concentrated in day-to-day reality, while the inner portions of the self amass great information, perhaps try out new organizations, and utilize the inner senses. The results then emerge to the conscious mind, and a creative product. Robert's creativity not only involves that kind of behavior, but the mystic elements of the personality, meaning that the inner activity is very intense, so that Robert learned from a young age to develop a certain kind of secrecy. His poetry was largely mystical poetry, and though he did not dwell upon the fact, he realized that this vast inner reality of his was quite beside the point of living as far as other people were concerned. To some extent, he tried to emulate their behavior, that is, to behave the way they did, while at the same time, he intently pursued a rather adventuresome inner psychic existence. That existence was expressed in the personality, but not in the normal conversation with the boys he dated, or with his friends. In early years, the church did serve as a structure. When he left it, however, he was without such a structure, and when he did discuss such matters with the priests, they often had more pragmatic sexual interests in mind. He became quite good at expressing this inner life regardless of other circumstances and the situation at home, and he understood that it was at odds with what was expected. It was the most vital area of his life, so quite on his own. He decided that he would forego motherhood and a conventional family life. A good deal of the time, he hid his own decisions from himself. His nature is open, basically truthful, and direct in its dealings with the world and others. He began to find, of course, that the world could react quite differently to openness and trust. He has great powers of concentration, as indeed all mystics do, and everything in his environment becomes charged and important. The strong private nature leads to personal discoveries, and his basically direct way of dealing with the world means that he wants to share those discoveries. He often feels that he needs protection against that same world, for while he shares so much with his fellows, he still feels basically apart from them in important ways. You share that kind of feeling to a considerable extent, as contacts with the world are lessened. However, there is little feedback, so that the dangers of the world can easily become exaggerated, and little experience is gained in dealing with the far more mundane aspects of such contact. Give us a moment. If you recall, Robert could chatter quite well, and carry on in a more or less normal manner while brooding deeply about something, and saying nothing. He was bound to publish his work, any kind, but equally determined to protect his private nature. The secretness meant that he could hide his intent from himself for some time. Most people, as I mentioned, experience their contacts with the world through many prepared structures, that of church, community, clubs, professional organizations, family affiliations, academic affiliations, and these frameworks serve automatically to cushion such contact, and in a way, while permitting contact with the world, also blunting it to some extent. In that respect, most individuals do not stand alone, and in that respect, Rupert feels that except for you, he does, and must meet the world head-on when there is such conflict. Do you want a break? Ross said, No, I guess not. They said he did not want to be put in a position in which he felt he had to put his self-respect on the line. He did not like the public aspects that he felt confronted him. There was no ready fellowship in the psychic field in which he felt he could take part. At the same time, he felt that he should indeed go abroad out into the public arena, and that he was cowardly for not doing so. He is quite gifted in dealing with people, however, and in that respect, he is a born teacher. To some extent, that kind of activity gives his conscious mind something to concentrate upon during creative periods of incubation. Both of you see the foibles of others rather clearly. Rupert began to concentrate upon that, however, and also feared that the classes might turn into more public endeavors as they became better known. One of the reasons for dropping them, his fear of the spontaneous self originally developed simply because that self seemed so different from other people that he tried to keep it within bounds. He tried to tie it to writing alone, which was the closest approximation he could make to creative, conventional activity, while still allowing himself expression. His own abilities, again, kept working through all of the frameworks, however, and none of them could content him. The mystic is primarily concerned with a one-point relationship to the universe. Rupert used to feel as a child frightened by crowds. He did not like to sit close to others. The two of you maintain a psychic distance from others, even your close friends. In a way, the symptoms are a statement of the distance Rupert wanted to maintain from public life, because he felt equally that he should go out into the world in a public manner and tackle it. If he were free of fear, it seemed to him, he would do so. Rupert, however, deals well with individuals as in class. While preserving his privacy, he still extended it. He enjoyed radio, even on YouTube, because he spoke from a concealed viewpoint, where his person was concealed. The secret elements of his personality rise up against the public connotations of standing before the crowd. This is not necessarily a fear, say, of performing inadequately, nor a fear of exposure in ordinary terms. It is a distance for being surrounded by the public emotions. Rupert did begin to feel more and more apart from the ordinary world, and both of you concentrated upon that feeling of apartness. Take your break. Now, in a way, the mystic's goals are internal. That is, they involve comprehensions thought for whose validity is in important ways independent of historical time, even though the comprehensions may be caught in certain frameworks. In other periods, for example, there were acceptable frameworks through which mystics expressed themselves, and most cultures have such avenues. In times of transition, the old avenues no longer serve. Rupert has no exterior framework to judge his subjective experience against, for even when he was in the church, his experience did not fit the mold. Your society teaches a basic distrust of the self, but even then, from their organizations, people look for a sense of approval. While relying upon yourself, Rupert still had no guidelines. And to some extent he felt that he had to rein himself in, to go cautiously, and he began to doubt himself. Even science fiction was not large enough, imaginatively, to contain his abilities, and when those abilities did indeed flower, he was afraid he was more of an outcast than ever. While trusting himself enough to use the abilities, and in a largely uncongenial social atmosphere, he still found it necessary to be highly critical and not to rely upon the abilities too much. That he was unknowingly as deluded as many people would certainly say he was. That meant, however, that to some degree he cut himself off from solutions that the abilities themselves could provide. Give us a moment. Once again, of course, there were no guides in the exterior world, and the two of you determined to explore the nature of reality to the best of your abilities. You also decided that you must use great caution while you were doing so in your dealings with the world. The pendulum suggestions are meant to reinforce the basic trait in the self, and in the self's abilities to handle experience without enforcing artificial armor. Both of you chose to do what you are doing and accepted your historical period. Give us a moment. Rupert acted as naturally as possible today, reminding himself to be spontaneous. Your natural way of dealing with the world is also one of trust. Ralph noted to me. They said, but you also feel that the world might betray such trust. True trust, however, is your greatest protection, and you cannot be betrayed, for you will not attract deceivers. It is far better to trust, for you open up framework to, so that benefits become available that might otherwise not be. And even if it seems that a trust is betrayed in an individual case, the overall picture will prove to be far different. I will continue at our next session and answer any questions that you might have. Ralph said, okay. They said end of session. Ralph said, thank you.